Well, thanks a lot for being here. I'm Brent, and this is Christian.
How's it going, guys? Thank you very much for coming out.
Does anybody have the first question?
I would like to hear more about the installation you did on the street. I'd just like to hear a little bit more about the installation you did on the street with all of the television sets.
Okay. Well, the TVs, it's something I've been kind of doing for a little while. And, yeah, I guess I've done maybe 5 or 6 installations, like, as part of my shows. And one night I guess I was outside of Mars Cafe one day in Des Moines and saw that they had all these outlets for, like, Christmas lights in all the planners and stuff. So I just was like, all right, this will be a sweet, like, street art thing to do. And all the outlets were already there, so we just showed up in the middle of the night and put them there. And then I told Christian we were doing it, and so he came with the camera. And then they were there for probably like almost a week, and then the owner of Mars Cafe called me, and he was like, hey, the police are asking about these TVs. Will you come get them before they, ticket you or whatever? So that's what that's about.
That was shot actually after the initial premiere of the film. The film came out November 2nd, and we premiered at the Des Moines Social Club. It was literally the weekend after that he was actually moving his stuff out of his studio, and he's like, I don't want to take the TVs. And he called me, and he said, hey, I'm taking these TVs out in about an hour. What are you doing? So I go out there to off University in front of Mars Cafe, and I have the camera. I park behind Mars, and I walk around, and I see 2 guys wearing hoodies. And then I see Brent's van going around the corner. And I'm thinking, oh, this is the type of deal we're doing. Yeah, I figure everyone's going to be hanging out doing this, and everyone's gone. It's just me and a camera with these TVs. And I'm like, oh, man. So we start shooting it, and then, I'm starting to get a little nervous about it. So after I did my shots, I got in the car. He texted me. He's like, there's more TVs. And he went up to another neighborhood and put more TVs out, like behind some stores off of 42nd Street. If you guys are familiar with 42nd Street on Des Moines, the Roosevelt shops, behind there, random spots. And so I'm waiting to see if there's any more. But, that whole shot, that's the type of really cool stuff that he's doing. It's somewhat graffiti in a lot of ways, but it's street art. Yeah, it's a really cool way of doing self-promotion. He's right. Once the cops start asking who this is, his name's going to be out there.
It's kind of hard to mistake. I forgot that was when I was moving, and that's kind of the reason I did it, was to get rid of them. But I had to go back and get them anyway. Anybody else?
Okay. So you get the pictures out of the photo album.
Yeah.
Is there like one particular image or photo that you reuse a lot? Like I saw one of the T-shirts had the old guy with the epic mustache. You know, is there one that you feel that you use a lot more than the others?
The mustache guy has definitely been used a lot, but there's probably, there's a good number of them that I keep reusing, and as when I'm working, I experiment a lot, so when I come up with a new process or a new thing, I can always go back and reuse the people again and give them like a different treatment. And then also, as I've progressed with making stencils, like when I started out, they were just like one color black and white stencils. And as I've gone in, now I'm making like 6 color stencils, so I can go back and do all the people that I did in one color. And then, and then I do like hand painted portraits with with house paint too, so I can go back and do those several different times, and they always turn out different that way. And now I'm starting to, I do drawings of them too, like pen drawings. But now I'm going back and making these pen drawings into stencils too. So it's like a never-ending process. Anybody else? Don't be scared.
What can we see from you in the next 2 to 5 years? What do you want to do? Where do you want to take it?
It's all going up. So, just international is it's been my goal for maybe 3 years. I've been doing this like 5 years. I think it was in like year 2, I was like, okay, 5 years from now I want to be national. 10 years from now I want to be international. And then I went national in like a year. So yeah, international, I want to show in museums, and I don't know, I want to do all that stuff. Oh yeah, and we're actually taking the film to Poland in July. It's going to be in the DIY Film Festival. So that's he's shown some films overseas before, but that's my first like overseas international thing. So it's pretty rad. Do you want to talk about some of the places you show your films?
Yeah, I guess we can go into a little bit of that. One of the big pushes I do as a filmmaker, and when I decided, especially with his, was it's the exposure of Iowa. At the very beginning, you saw the tag or the line that said the Made in Iowa documentary series. It is made in Iowa, but it's not necessarily for Iowa. It's taking things from Iowa and showing it to everybody else. This documentary did come out kind of accidentally, but it gave me this idea that I could take some really cool things that are happening right here and then take them everywhere else. And one of those places was Poland. He had told me about, I think it was in Rock and Roll magazine.
Maximum
Rock and Roll. Was talking about this DIY film fest, and I thought it was a long shot. I had shown several short films, Italy, Austria, Ireland. And I was like, well, I wonder if this will catch on, because documentaries are kind of, it's a very thin line of what you can expose it to, especially with trying to take American culture overseas. This can be kind of difficult. But I submitted it, and within a month, I get an email from the program and said, we loved it. Do you have a dialogue sheet? I never thought I would need to do like a dialogue sheet for this documentary ever. But they loved it, and in July for the film fest, it will be screened. So it's pretty cool. I'm never thought it would go that far, and yeah, it's pretty awesome.
With subtitles.
With subtitles.
Do you have a question? What made you both decide to settle in Des Moines?
Do you want to go first?
I don't know.
All right. Well, I've told this story quite a few times. I'm originally from Fulton, Illinois, and I had recently, in 06, I graduated from college. I was doing graphic design at a newspaper. I hated it. And a friend of mine was moving back from Denver to Des Moines to be with this girlfriend. She was going to go to Drake University. And he had come home to Fulton for like a day or something, and was going to go look at apartments, and asked me if I wanted to tag along, because we hadn't hung out in years. So I was like, yeah, sure. And so on the way out there, we're talking, and I'm like, maybe I could come with you out here, And he's like, yeah, dude, you really should. And we got to Des Moines, and it's a little bigger. I mean, it's way bigger than Fulton. Like, Fulton's a very, very small town, and no real opportunities for artists at all. Like, pretty much my whole family thought I was really dumb for studying art. So we got there, and then we went to Mars Cafe, and by this time I was like, all right, I'm going to fill out some applications with you, because we looked at apartments, and then we went to, we were just looking at the town, and actually ended up giving them a business card, and they called me back the next day, like, hey, would you want to do a show here in September, which was like 2 weeks away. And so, yeah, I had that show, and I sold like 10 pieces, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to try Des Moines out. And since then, it's kind of snowballed.
I'm originally from Rock Island, Illinois. Very similar areas of the Midwest off the Mississippi. He was just actually north of me. I ended up going to high school in Cedar Rapids, and I was definitely one of those teenagers that wanted out of Iowa very fast. I could not get out faster, and I went to college at the University of Colorado. And when I was finished, I decided, well, I want to come back to Iowa because it was very expensive to live in Denver, especially to start a career. And student loans were right around the corner. So I looked at Des Moines because I figured if I'm going to move back to Iowa, I didn't want to be anywhere else but Des Moines, just because I wanted something that felt like a city. Cedar Rapids didn't feel like a city. The Quad Cities, I don't even know what to say what that felt like, but I wanted to be somewhere where it still felt like a city to me. And I moved to Des Moines in 2007, and that is when things started to change. You heard several of the people that we talked to that in the past 3 years, things have really changed, and it has. It's very progressive. And you hear a lot of people talk about moving to New York or LA or some big metropolitan area that if you're doing anything that's art-related, fashion, design, music, you need to be in these major cities. And I don't believe that's true at all. You need to be in a city that's progressive and wants to listen to you and your ideas and wants to develop with you. Going to LA to be a filmmaker, you are one in a billion. And everyone, I hear the same story, well, we're going to go out there, get a regular job, and just kind of, keep trying. Well, you can do that and waste your entire 20s doing that. And instead, you could go to a city that is interested in what you're doing, and instead of playing that hit and miss game, you can actually start working and kind of grow along with your community. And I felt that Des Moines was the perfect place for this. And Des Moines, I still believe it is. Des Moines has changed in a lot of ways positively, and it still is. Every day if I go through downtown, I'm like, this is why I love this town, because there's so many great things happening, and people want to do things there. So that's why I settled there. Let's get something really serious. I want to get a heated discussion going.
Oh, I have a quick question.
Where do I get the windows? Just wherever. Like when I first started doing it, my sister was doing it, and then I did the first batch from one she gave me, and then it was weird. It was like I was drawn to them because I just started seeing them everywhere, and I'm like, well, I have to take them home. I have to paint them. And then now so many people know that I do it that like they'll call me or email me and be like, hey, I'm getting new windows, or I saw some somewhere, or my neighbor is. So I don't have to look too hard.
I was wondering, it's loud, what a typical day is for you. I know it's probably not really typical, but since you're doing all these different things, like how do you manage it, or how do you decide what you're going to do?
Typical day is, okay, let's say a typical slow day where like all I have to do is get up and drink coffee and take care of like internet business, like, do my networking, make all my contacts and phone calls, and then I just paint all day. That would be great if that was every day. It's really just different a lot every day. Like, I don't know. Like today I spent most of my afternoon just like planning out. I just got back from a 4-day trip, so I'm kind of frazzled, so I need to like get myself in order. But I spend a lot of time making lists and getting organized, and then just putting that into action. So it's kind of like my studio. Like it gets really messy and like stuff everywhere, and then I'm done with the painting, and I'm like, okay, before I do anything else, I have to put this thing back into order. So I clean everything up, and that's kind of how my life is. I still haven't done all of them, and I have done a few that aren't in there. So like I said earlier, I can go back and redo all these. So, and now I just today did my first baby picture. So I have a whole, like, probably 5 pages of babies, so I might do all those. Yeah, they're like my most prized possession. So one day they'll probably go in a safe or something. No, that's a common question, but I don't think. I mean, they were tossed out in the trash, and that's what I always say is like they were tossed out. They're so old that the biggest thing I hear is like, is that Lincoln or is that like, Jesse James or like, it's like people only know like 5 people from the Old West. It's literally, and that's what I always hear. But then like it's not like it's exactly like even if someone did recognize it, it's not like it's exactly from the photo. So, I change it enough that I don't know. I don't think anybody ever will. Dallas has another one.
Have you ever had anybody come to you with a photograph of somebody who died or somebody from their family that wanted you to create a painting from their photograph?
Yeah, I've done several commissions. And I'm actually gearing up to like kind of push that a little more. I'm doing one of my grandpa for his birthday, and I'm doing one of my girlfriend's parents for their anniversary. And then after that, I'm going to put the call out. I want people to submit stories to me of why I should paint their loved ones, and then pick out like the best 3 and just paint them and give them the paintings. I think it'll be a cool kind of, I don't know, thing to do for fans of my work. And, I'm sure some of these stories will probably blow me away. Why? I'm thinking like some of them might make me cry or something. So, I don't know. Anybody else?
Where do you draw the line of breaking the law for street art? Because, there's TVs on the street and there's like 200 brickers and brickers here or something.
Well, I would never like destroy anyone's property. I used to like spray paint on stuff, but now I'm more into like installing things. So as far as I go is like screwing my paintings into a wooden wall or something like that, or just like hanging it on a hook, or like on fences and stuff like that. I have the urge a lot of times to paint on things. But yeah, that's where I draw the line.
I have.
Yeah, I guess I could. Yeah, I have a new studio. It's on East University in Des Moines, and it's probably double the size, triple the size of my old studio. And I live there. It's not like coded for me to live there, but I do. And it's big, and we're like, not only do I work there, but I'm throwing shows for other artists and giving people a place to show. And on the 16th, we're showing some artists from Muscatine, some outsider artists. And then on the 29th, we're having a solo show for another local artist, John Baldwin. And if you follow my Facebook page or something like that, you could get the skinny on that. I had something else I was going to say. I don't remember.
Are there any other artists in your studio?
Oh yeah, Van, the guy who you saw in the film who was talking about the Skull Bee being in the Macy's Day Parade. He actually, there's 3 units in this building, and he's got one that connects to mine. So we're going to have these massive, like, sweet open houses. So, anybody else? You want to take that?
It was actually a year ago this month.
Wow.
It was literally a year ago.
It's our anniversary.
It is. We'll say it's today. I was working on a picture last year called Vessel that's being edited right now, and it's more of a. I started out in this business doing soundtracks for horror films, and when I started making films, I still kind of wanted to dabble in that, and this film I was doing kind of had this psychedelic Andy Warhol drug art scene, and we really didn't have a whole lot of money, but I wanted to try to do as much as we could with what we had, and a former business partner of mine told me about Brent. He didn't know his name. He thought it was Brett or Ben, and this is not necessarily his normal thing he does. It was some body painting. So you take his art that you saw, but put it on a human body. And I was like, oh man, that's great. This is exactly what I want when people are tripping. This is awesome. I want this. And so I emailed him, and we met at, if you guys are familiar with Des Moines, at this place called Star Bar. And I just said, look, our budget's kind of already laid out, but, in exchange for doing this, let's do like an art film together, something avant-garde and weird. And we made a deal, and we kind of departed that day. And I was thinking about it after I started learning about him. I actually went to his studio, the one that you saw in the film, and that initial interview where at the very beginning where he's sitting down and it has the painting in the background. You saw the Spider-Man book. That was actually that day, and when I was learning about him, I was like, you're from along the Mississippi. I'm like, I am too. And I noticed a lot of similar backgrounds between the two of us, and I felt that the DIY method of promotion and of doing business really needs to be told. You hear about just keep your name out there, but no one really says how to do that. And I was just very impressed by his style, and after that day, I was just like, we got to do this full documentary about you. I don't know, who's going to watch it, but I think it's going to be awesome. And since then, we've played all over the state of Iowa. We've done the Quad Cities, and in May we're going to be down in Atlanta for a week showing the film, and then in Poland in July. So it's like, yeah, it's been a year now. So that's how it kind of started. He helped me out on a project, and then I made an entire film about him. So, right? Yeah.
And since making this film and all the buzz about this,
yeah.
now he's got several new documentary projects.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with Templeton Rye at all? Yeah, if you guys heard I'm the one doing the documentary on Templeton Rye. Yeah, on this film, we did this very punk rock style. We had no money to make it. I maybe spent $200, and I'm sure the only thing that's added up on there is just postage sending it out. It was just whatever archive videos that he had from doing art shows and whatever. I'm like, bring it to the table. And then I went and shot a bunch of different things. There was no outline, no nothing. I remember sitting at my editing desk looking at all this. I'm like, what is all this? What is happening with all these things? And eventually, put it all together, and it's done very well for itself. It's been it doesn't even seem like it's been a year.
Yeah.
Really.
How many hours of footage do you think we have?
About 9 or 10 altogether to go through. But it was great because all those people are now mutual friends, and they've all been very supportive of the film. The thing is it wasn't all necessarily about Brent. It was about the art scene. And the two, aside from Brent himself, the two outspoken artists in there, Van and Chris Roberts, spoke a lot about the scene itself in Des Moines. Not necessarily we would call your traditional art gallery, art museum scene. The found objects for canvas and things like that, and it's done very well for itself, and I'm very proud of it. I mean, we literally just run in somewhere like, hey, what are you doing? I got this thing going on. Do you want to come down with the camera? And off I go. Nothing was always planned. So one of the best times doing it, though, was we had made the poster of him on the motorcycle. And I love the photo of him. He had it as his profile pic on Facebook. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And let's use it. Well, after we were less than a month away from the premiere, I was like, we have no shots of you on a motorcycle. How the hell could we use this as a poster? So, and if you were, and you probably didn't notice this, there's one shot, the one when he's kind of dancing when he's sitting on his bike. If you look in his sunglasses, you can see me sitting in the back of his van with the back open. I was sitting on a love seat, no seatbelt, arm around the seatbelt and behind me. And then on top of that, as we got going, I realized my tripod was broken. So I actually had to hold down on the camera to keep it from falling, the camera and the tripod from falling out and driving through town and get those shots. I mean, it was very much like, oh, I hope I don't get hurt. I hope we don't
get fined.
Yeah, I hope we don't get fined type of deal. But it's...
Tell them about the other motorcycle shot.
Oh, the other one was I was actually driving and shooting at the same time.
It's like,
Right, yeah.
it's a small portion of that in the film.
And even the side shots, that was from like that the first take. I was like, this isn't gonna work. I'm too like doing this. But we went on October. It was like the last warm day in October, and I was on a suicide mission to get this shot one way or another, and we did. And I remember we looked at it after we were done. He was like, "Dude, we can shoot a motorcycle movie. I don't know what you're talking about."
I want to make a motorcycle movie.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions?
Are you already working on projects like the main Iowa series? Are you already like got stuff lined up?
Yeah, two more. Two more. One funded, one being funded. Templeton Rye, which is funded, and then I'm doing one on another artist, James Bearden, which that's getting a little odd. I may not use that for the Made in Iowa, with the way we're doing things. But Templeton Rye is definitely it. There's been talks about a few other topics, but Templeton's kind of like the big thing on the table right now. I mean, it's a huge story. It's a huge story. Aside from that, I just did the 4-room show down at Finders Creepers, where I had 4 art films that were played, and then I had 5 artists create pieces that were inspired by the film, and each room had its own film with their own artists in it. And since that's been done, I'm now shipping those off to festivals overseas. So. All right. Anyone?
We all good then? Thanks a lot again for being here and seeing the film, guys. And I brought a bunch of merchandise and stuff if anybody's interested. And we'll be back there if you have more questions. Thanks.